Okay, so the good news is by the time you listen to or watch this, you are further removed from the Patriots losing 30-13 in San Francisco than I am right now recording Monday night. Recording after a red-eye flight. Recording after watching 11 hours of film and then writing that up. The 11 hours is over the writing and the watching. It's not exaggerated. That was the total. That stunk as much as you might think. And sitting here going, okay, how do we want to open this episode? Because there's a lot that went wrong, obviously, in a game that was 30-13. And you watched it home and I did in the press box going, this could have been 40-3 and you wouldn't have blinked twice. That's how bad it was. And we could go down the same path we've done lately. Pass protection. Patriots gave up a hit or a hurry, which includes sacks when you get the hit, 51.2% of the time. Not great. Still bad. Still worse than the NFL. Or we could do the quarterback conversation thing, right? I wrote about this after the game. You know where I stand, probably, unless you're new. Hello. I want Drake May to sit. And it's for the simple reason that the future of the franchise, in my opinion, deserves better than the worst pass protecting offensive line in the league. Maybe that makes me crazy. I want to give him a chance to get the ball off. That's what I want. And I can wait a couple of weeks if the Patriots get a little healthier or they can develop certain players like Leighton Robinson, who was brutal at right guard, opposite City, so who came back, had some rough moments. Oh, and David Andrews, the man in charge of calling out all the protections, got hurt with a shoulder injury. And this is a dude who never misses games. I want to wait. I said, no, I don't really want to do that. By the way, that's pretty much all we're going to talk about Drake May today. What I want to start with is the defense. Because we are going to get to the offense, the defense, we need to talk our usual staple segments and what would NFL film say, travel tales from San Francisco as promised, and then your mailbag answers. But we had two defenders talk today on the radio, Jabril Peppers and Devon Godchaux, both saying the same thing in different ways, in a way that on the surface is alarming because they're calling out teammates for, quote, being selfish and not playing within the team concept, which on its surface, again, is like a little alarming. You're not used to players being as honest with the media, particularly in a negative, critical setting. Oh my God, what does it mean? I don't really care. If their teammates can take the honesty, if they're saying that to their teammates behind closed doors as they are to strangers on the radio, then that's fine. Those teammates know, the coaches know, everybody knows. It's just unusual, of course, as we all get used to the post-Belichick era, that people outside the building know. The second part is, though, this is a defense that, as you know, if you made a list of the top 12 players in this team, somewhere on that list were Matt Judon, Christian Barmore, Kyle Duggar, and Juwan Bentley. None of them played after the first quarter on Sunday. And only one of them, Kyle Duggar, even played on Sunday. So this is a defense missing not just some of the best players on that side of the ball, but some of the best players in this entire team. And now you have some breakdowns and finger pointing when it's not just that the players left over are guys like Eric Johnson, and Del Pettis and Raekwon McMillan's playing like 88% of the snaps. It's the fact that this defense, before we get to October, because this is still Monday night, September 30th, is bottom 10 in DVOA, bottom 10 in EPA, below average in points allowed, below average in yards allowed per play, and just snuck up above in turnovers forced per game. But Monday Night Football still going on. Maybe they get to hold that spot. Above average turnover forcing team. Great, cool. It's one per game. This defense is in a worse spot than I ever expected it to be, particularly this early. And I know what the schedule was. And I expected them to be healthier, and they haven't been. And we'll see what happens with Kyle Duggar. Juwan Bentley sounds like he's going to be out for the year. Christian Barmore, you have to think so as well. But if this defense can't hold up its end of the bargain like it did last year, being partnered with the worst offense in the league, the Patriots are in some serious trouble. And it's not just the injuries. It's not just the defense might not be able to carry the water given the roster that it is right now and that they've been outcoached 3 straight times. It's that the talent as a whole is only getting worse. And the talent is the talent. There's nothing really to be done at this point. Like Doug Cott and I advocated for them to sign somebody, a warm body at left tackle, Charles Leno, your Donovan Smith, DJ Humphrey, someone off the street that's not DeMontre Jacobs, who will fast forward, allowed 5 pressures and got a lot of help versus Nick Bosa in the first half, gave up 1 pressure. Didn't get a lot of help in the second half of San Francisco, gave up 4, including a sack. And so the Patriots, in my mind, not just because of the injuries, mostly because of the talent, but also because they're being outcoached, are in a dire situation right now. And they could dig their way out of it, right? 2 of their next 3 games are against Miami and Jacksonville, beatable football teams. But this is not a September freakout. These are trends that are building in a way that you get edged in critical situations against Seattle defensively. You get outplayed and outcoached by the Jets. You have extra time to prepare for San Francisco. Granted, NFC champions, loaded with talent. They were healthier than expected. George Kittle played, Debo Samuel played. Hand up, Mike Giardi and I blew that last episode. But they outcoach you too. And here's the starting point. The Patriots sold out to stop the run against the Shanahan offense. Makes sense on the surface, right? Here's the thing. That insistence on stopping the run in their minds, based on the personnel and how they wanted to match San Francisco when they're rolling out sometimes 2 tight ends and mostly 2 backs, and sometimes they'll go no backs, 2 tight ends, 3 receivers, but one of them is really Debo Samuel, and he's going to play running back. I'll know he goes for a carry for 8 yards and then 6, was we're going to play base defense. We're going to be big. We're going to stop the run, and we're going to hold you to a respectable, I think it's 3.9 yards per carry. It was 2.2 when they were in base defense before garbage time. So mission accomplished, right? No. The Patriots were so stubborn about stopping the run against Kyle Shanahan, who said, oh, okay. First drive, when I throw out all those different packages with 2 tight ends and 2 running backs and no running backs and 2 tight ends and 3 receivers, and you're just going to play big, that's fine by me. Because when I want to throw the ball, I'm going to average more than 16 yards per dropback, which is exactly what San Francisco did. Their 5 longest gains came when the Patriots said, we're going to load up with 3 defensive linemen and 4 linebackers, play old school 3-4 defense. And the Niners just threw it over the top of them. Their 5 longest gains came against that defense, which the Patriots played 60% of the time. And they adjusted late. Third quarter starting to play more 3 safety nickel. And if Kyle Duggar was healthy, maybe they play some more 3 safety to guard against deep passes that just go straight over their heads. And this is the big thing, right? The Patriots, we know, can't overcome turnovers on offense. They can't really overcome explosive plays on defense because their offense can't generate them themselves. And so San Francisco goes ahead and doesn't average a ton on the ground. They're fine with that. That's the point of a Shanahan offense. Brian Hoyer's been on the record about this. Says, hey, they're going to run it 30 times, not to go for 200 yards, but to ensure that when they run play action or different actions off of that, they're going to hit you successfully over the top, which the Niners did. 4 passes longer than 30 yards. And that excludes 2 touchdowns they had nullified by penalty. So they go up 20-3 at halftime. They get a touchdown on their first drive of the second half. And it's just completely out of control. And so the Patriots, great. You loaded up. You played a lot of 3-4 defense. And injuries, again, played a factor in that. But this is the 3rd straight week that I look and go, Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington got out-coached. And the Niners stole elements of what the Jets did. The Jets did this to them as well. They played 21 snaps of this base defense against the Jets. We're going to stop the run and we're going to trust our one-on-one matchups outside. And the weird thing is, unlike Aaron Rodgers going 13 of 16 against man coverage last week, the Patriots held up one-on-one against Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and George Kittle really well. They only gave up 2 completions in man-to-man coverage. But this game plan, this stubbornness, this insistence on we're going to stop the run in this modern era of more lighter personnel and 2 high coverages, which offenses are responding by running more and running into those light boxes, hurt them because the Niners got exactly what they wanted. And once Kyle Shanahan saw after that first drive, oh, if I just stay in bigger personnel, 2 backs or tight ends, you're going to play 3-4. I'm going to carve you up. And they did. Again, 16 yards per dropback whenever the Patriots were in this 3-4 base personnel. It's a problem, not only because of the injuries, that's because of the overall talent in the offense that you're dealing with. But the coaching right now is not giving them an advantage. And the less talent you have, the more coaching matters. Now, speaking of coaching, offense, of course, is not going to get off the hook. Alex Van Pelt, we'll just get in the whole offense right now, did have a quick passing game. Bravo. Finally, a plan that says we need to get the ball out within 2.5 seconds because we're going to give up pressure in that time or less. And what did Jacoby Brissett do? Well, he had his worst game of his entire Patriots tenure. 19-32, 168 yards, touchdown, and a pick 6. Those numbers are really inflated by one 50-yard catch and run that Antonio Gibson had in the 4th quarter. Throw it out. No one cares. Patriots didn't even score in that drive. So really, he's something like 18-31 for 118 yards, touchdown, and a pick. The issue was not that Jacoby Brissett had one pass completed longer than 10 yards through the air, which he did. It was that his mistakes under pressure, which we documented here, right in the space, where he's only allowing pressure 14% of the time, anytime he's hurried or hit, to result in sacks. He was disastrous under pressure. 5 of 13 for 92 yards, the pick 6, and 6 sacks. Now, I only attributed 2 of those sacks to him, but the weird thing was he was good against the blitz. When he needed to get it out, He was 7 of 11. Boom. There it was. He did take a couple of sacks, but he held on to the ball too long. And part of this was the short passing game that Alex Van Pelt designed was very static. There's not a lot of motion. Like you could see how often guys were shifting, trading, motioning, going across the line of scrimmage, coming back, jet motion before the snap for the Niners. How many times do you see that for the Patriots? Now, we're not going to confuse here activity with productivity, something I think the media does a whole lot when we talk about motion. But there's a reason some of the best offenses in the league, like San Francisco, annually use this much motion. It's to get an advantage, either to get bad eyes on defense, to get a numbers advantage going in a certain direction with the running game. And the Patriots just don't do this. And you can use this to get a numbers advantage in the passing game, by the way. But instead, you are having death by 1,000 3-yard curls, which KJ Osborne came up empty on twice because the Niners corners go, oh, you're going to stop there? Cool. I'll back this one away for you. And it happened over and over again. And so I don't know how much of that is going to change because when they hired Van Pelt, I told you, you go back 10 years to the Mike McCarthy Packers and whenever they were at their best, that was an offense that won on talent. Those were a lot of isolation routes. You didn't have a whole lot of motion. You didn't have a lot of route concepts that made it easier on the receivers and the quarterbacks, which again, that's coaching. That's the stuff that you need when you don't have the talent to throw it up to Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams or Greg Jennings, or it's not Aaron Rodgers holding the ball. We know that's not the case here with Alex Van Pelt, who spent most of his time in the last 15 years in Green Bay. That was his longest stay of there or Buffalo or Tampa or Cincinnati or Cleveland. Okay. That's where he's coming from. That's where all this old school West Coast stuff is in the Patriots playbook from. Okay. And there are some RPOs from Cleveland, some adjustments, but the drills and the concepts, the beliefs underpinning all this are from Green Bay. And right now that isolation is costing them. It's also costing them that I'm concerned. I don't know this for a fact. That Jacoby Brissett, when he's under pressure, we just talked about how much of a disaster he was. This might be having a compound effect because we know Jacoby Brissett was much better under pressure in weeks 1 or 2. And maybe it's randomness. Maybe it's just games like this happen and he'll bounce back against Miami. I don't know. But what I do know last year, when I saw a quarterback under a ton of pressure in weeks 1 and 2, competitive games for the Patriots, then goes on the road to the Jets and struggles. And then in week 4 has a complete disaster that includes a pick 6, makes everyone go, oh, they're not who we thought they were. Yeah, last year that was Mac Jones in Dallas. This year it's Jacoby Brissett in San Francisco. And the pressure is much worse. So I warned you that enough pressure is going to break any quarterback. And you might be, oh, good. Well, we'll start Drake May. Well, how soon do you think it'll take for Drake May if a 9-year veteran under this much pressure is suddenly throwing pick 6s, can't see the middle of the field, right? And taking sacks left and right? How long is it going to take for May to possibly break under the pressure? I don't want to find out. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is not a compound effect. This is not additive. Jacoby Brissett just had a bad game, but we don't know yet. And we might not get to know if the Patriots continue to let their offensive line crumble, which they just can't have. What else they can't have? A reminder, Stevenson. Can we hold on to the freaking football? This is getting very ranty. We're gonna do ranty the whole time. We have good San Francisco stories coming up. But can I just say that one of the best running backs on planet Earth has now fumbled in a 4th straight game? That's a statistic you don't have at the high school level. It's certainly not acceptable there. And yet he sits out one drive and then bring him back. He should have been benched until at least halftime. And I'm down with the more player-friendly, accepting partnership type approach of the coaching staff. That's just knowing how to connect and reach the modern player. You can still be tough on them. Players were back today after getting in at 4 a.m., by the way, for mandatory running on Mondays. How nice of a workplace does that sound to you? Not great to me. Anyway, reminder, Stevenson, you just can't have it. Not at all. That also goes hand in hand as far as the can't have it category with the protection. Here's the breakdown when I went down and said, okay, who had this sack? That quarterback hit, hurry, yada, yada. Demontre Jacobs, 4th new starting left tackle in 4 weeks. This dude's going to get a lot of grace from me. I hope he does not start much longer because I just don't think he's equipped. I had him down for 5 pressures, a sack, 2 hits, 2 hurries. Lade Robinson, similarly, 5 pressures, a sack, 2 hits, 2 hurries. Michael Wenu had 3. Jacoby Brissett, the victim, ran into 2 sacks on his own. Sidney Sow, 2 pressures. Nick Leverett, the backup center for David Andrews, who left after the first drive. And then 2 sacks on the team where just the blitz got there so quickly. There are no outlets. It's nobody's fault. Just better defense against crappy offense. When you look out wide, Jalen Polk finally, it's not only just starting, this dude is taking a ton of reps. 84% of the offensive snaps. He had more targets than anybody else. He got targets deep. He got targets in the intermediate range. He got targets shallow. Good. I don't have any reason really left that Tyquan Thornton should be seeing significant snaps. And lucky me or you or both of us, he played a season low snaps against the 49ers. And it might go down to 0 because Kayshon Boutte came off the bench and had a catch. Okay. Is making some kind of an impact because right now, Ramondre Stevenson has more fumbles than Tyquan Thornton does catches this entire season. So it's hard to make an argument there. Tight ends are what they are. I will say this, though. I think they deserve some more snaps because when you look at the personnel groupings and the success rate, this is mostly a commentary on, okay, when the Patriots have the pass, we know they stink at it. And the receivers they have are not very good. Their success rate when they played with 3 receivers, the most common grouping in this game and the previous 3 was 26%, meaning 3 out of every 4 plays, just forget about it. You're not getting enough yards. You're not getting what you want out of that play design. When they go to 2 tight ends, that's much closer to 50. In certain games, it's been over 50. So I know that aside from their wives and their immediate families, no one's getting really excited to see Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper on the field at the same time. But the statistics would tell you that's when this offense is at its best. And the upside for this, too, is you think about all the pressure that the Patriots have, that they're giving up. If you're playing with 2 tight ends, that makes it a lot easier to say, oh, Hunter Henry, before you go run the seam or into the flat or a little stick route or whatever it might be, chip Nick Bosa. Because that's what he was doing. There were some double teams for DeMontre Jacobs early in the game. Those dried up. Jacobs gave up 4 pressures after halftime. It was a disaster. But if that's your starting point, that's your base offense, which I think they want to do, great. Now, of course, it brings into the Demario Douglas conversation. This dude, again, just shut out, only played 58% of the snaps, despite the fact they're playing a ton of 11 personnel. I don't get it. That's another point. I'm not going to argue with myself anymore. I think they're making a mistake. You should have him outside, bring him into tighter splits. So he's basically in the slot in these 2 tight end sets and let him go to work over the middle of the field. They're not doing it. I don't know what else to say. The last thing I will say is actually a positive. Speaking of Austin Hooper, great play call. 4th and 1, third quarter, right? They get the ball back. It's 20-3. Opening kickoff. There's a fumble. They go to 4th and 1. Gerard should have gone for it on 4th down, 4th and 3 when they're in plus territory at the start of the game. You're a 10.5 point underdog. Go get those points. They don't. They punt. This time, play action roll out. The whole freaking stadium thought that they were going to run the ball. They didn't. Well done by Alex Van Pelt, Brissett, and Austin Hooper. Maybe the only time you could have said that for all 3 at the same time. But what are you going to do? Before we get to the defense, I have a message for you. Even though we have to watch the Patriots suffer through what is going to be a difficult rebuilding, losing season, that does not mean you have to lose with them. You can win with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports game, where you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as few as 4 correct picks. And if you sign up today, as I have done and folks close to me have done, you will get $50 instantly in a bonus as soon as you play $5. That's it. You don't even need to win with that $5. You get the $50 bonus guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Whether you're picking players in your fantasy team, you're picking players for the Patriots to go more than, less than, players in the opposing team. If you know Christian Gonzalez is going to shadow Tyreek Hill, don't you think Tyreek Hill might have less than whatever the projection will be? Well, that's all you have to do is pick players and stat projections, more or less on Prize Picks. Again, we give them out on this podcast every Thursday, Friday. You can stay tuned. Went 1 for 1 last week, 2-0 the week before. So hang in for this Friday. But either way, come to Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today with code CLNS. CLNS gets you $50 as soon as you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, to the defense. We covered a lot of this already. And it's tough because you just don't have a whole lot of options here that you love right now, right? Like, this is a team that is relying on Devon Godchow and Daniel Ekuala to play 70% of the snaps. And by the time that they're done playing first down and second down, they're looking for a breather on third down. And these are giant human beings. They deserve that. But instead, they have to go provide a pass rush. So aside from the fact that Kyle Shanahan looked and said, oh, you're going to play base defense, let me throw it over the top. The issue was they never got any real pressure. And that pressure rate of 23% was not good enough against Brock Purdy, who took 1 sack. Fun fact about that sack, it took more than 9 seconds. I had enough time to clip this today, post it to Twitter, set it to Yakety Sacks. And I blew it. I should have said Patriots Yakety sacked, or Brock Purdy Yakety sacked by the Patriots, and I didn't do it. And Brock Purdy, for whatever reason, just lost his freaking mind in the biggest pocket of the day. Anyway, that was the only sack the Patriots had. Josh Uche played 40 snaps, 0 pressures. Keon White had more blown edges than he did pressures. We said last week with Mark Giardi, Keon White has a bad game. Can the Patriots win? No, he had a bad game. He lost 2 edges to Brock Purdy scrambles that led to a first down in the first drive. They went at him on a 16-yard run in the first quarter. George Kittle turned him aside. There went Jordan Mason. And there was George Kittle fist pumping that he handled Keon White on the edge. And Tristan Hill got erased, and that's part of it. But Keon White was also targeted on a 10-yard run. Like, this was a bad day for the defensive line. Granted, against a good O-line for the 49ers. But Keon White, we go back to comments about Jabril Peppers and Devon Gottschall saying guys are playing selfish and not fitting in the team concept. Keon White's my number 1 pick in a draft of who could that be? Number 2 is Josh Uche. So aside from the lack of pass rush and the 3-4 personnel, what I did like, at least about this game plan, Christian Gonzalez did not shadow anybody. They stuck him in the boundary. He gave up 1 catch for 10 yards to Brandon Ayuk. That was it. The Patriots played a lot of zone. It was a 70-30 split, zone and man, and they played a lot of quarters, which they didn't do a ton of. They don't do a ton of, really, even going back to, of course, Belichick. And the best example, really, which paired with how they ran their fronts, which were a lot of 5-man fronts, a lot of 6-man fronts, was the Super Bowl against the Rams. You remember that, right? Playing quarters coverage in the back. And there are a lot of variations of quarters. So when people say, oh, is that cover 4? Like, yes, sometimes, but not always. You get some man principles in here, and you make different checks and adjustments based on not just the formation, but whatever you want to do with quarters. Corners play deep. Safeties play deep. Patriots are just eyeing these deep crossing routes. Meanwhile, the whole front, again, you got a 6-man front with 1 linebacker, a 5-man front with 2 off-ball linebackers. They're committed to the run. 4 deep defenders, 2 deep safeties, 2 deep corners. That's the version of quarters they played most often. I don't think it really worked great, but I understood the idea behind it. The issue, again, was they committed to stopping the run so much that I think that they instead played with 3 safeties. Hell, stick Marcus Jones back at free safety and let Jabril Peppers and Jalen Hawkins come down to the box. Even if you get 5 to 6 yards of carry off of me, I'm not giving up 52 yards, 38 yards, 45 yards, and 32 yards, which they did when they were in base defense, quarters or not, playing with just 4 defensive backs. That was my issue there. The other thing about this defensive performance, Kyle Shanahan, before he said, oh, okay, you're going to play base defense, we'll just throw it over the top, said, I think you suck at setting the edge, and I think you're slow. So he ran the ball 17 times in a row from the start of the game outside. All of the Niners' first 17 play calls on the ground were outside zone or toss concepts. That's it. You can go back and watch this for yourself. It goes all the way till the middle of the third quarter. They're forcing the Patriots again and again and again and again to set the edge because Anthony Jennings is out. You stunk in this department against the Jets. Okay, we run a similar-ish offense to what they're doing with New York. So we'll put Deebo Samuel at running back, and then we'll give it to Jordan Mason, and we'll just keep going outside zone and the toss concept here. They even scored on outside zone, 4 yards. Jordan Mason was untouched there in the third quarter. Oh, also running at Josh Uche. So when you're not getting pressure, you handle the edge well enough. And again, they gave up just under 2.5 yards per carry when they were base defense up until the last drive, which no one cares. It was 30 to 13. Like, that's a good job, but it came at the expense of your pass defense, which in my opinion is much more valuable than what you were trying to deny on the ground. In the back end, we also saw some changes. Again, Kyle Duggar goes out, so Jalen Hawkins is in. It seems like they really did not want to play Del Pettis, and I get that. He's an undrafted rookie. He only played 7 snaps. They did, however, feel okay playing Marco Wilson, who we know played weeks 1 and 2 as their third outside corner, got flagged for DPI in both of those games, and then kind of rode the bench against the Jets. He was back. He played around 30 snaps. Jonathan Jones dealing with a shoulder injury. Wilson did have a pass breakup. He was fine. Overall, good day for the secondary, and that's the best thing I can say about this defense because the tackling was better. Pass rush was gone. Run defense is fine, but it's just that's not the point here. Brock Purdy had 3.62 seconds on average, over 3.5 seconds from snap to throw. It's a passing league that matters more. But in the secondary, this is the good part. Purdy went 2 of 9 for 22 yards and a touchdown against man coverage. Like if I'm the Patriots and I get to play the Niners again next Sunday, you know what I'm doing a lot more of? Playing more man coverage. And I'm probably blitzing a little bit more because they blitzed only 20% of the time. That was the lowest rate of any game this season. And the Niners had a 50% success rate, but you got to them and had some effect with a new pressure design that had two throwaways. Granted, there was one touchdown, but George Kittle made a catch in triple coverage. Like at some point, okay, congrats. Like a hat tip, you won. That's what it is. Some success, just not enough. We'll wrap here. Special teams, Joey Sly. How about this? I'll pull it up. Pat McAfee show where we just clap when we say someone's name. That's the segment. 63-yard kick. I didn't know this when it happened. Longest in Patriots history. Then he gets drug tested today. Also had a 54-yarder. Best player in the field. Not great when it's between him and Bryce Behringer, the punter, who had all 4 punts inside the 20-yard line. Marcus Jones, 13-yard return average. Cool. Christian Ellis forced the fumble in the opening kickoff of the second half. Thumbs up for special teams. Thumbs down for everybody else. But here's the thing. You know it's the NFL. After we go through all of those stats and all of those things that went poorly and the coaching decisions, why I think the Patriots are really in a bad spot. You know what happens next in the NFL? Teams typically win. Ask the Panthers, okay? Ask fans of the Raiders. Ask all of these teams down in the dumps. So if you have any inclination to watch the Patriots again here soon, you can probably get a decently priced ticket. And if you're going to go to the next game when they host Miami or play Houston at home, go to Game Time because Game Time has the lowest price guarantee. And if you go to this podcast, it gets even lower. Details on that in a second. But if you find a lower price ticket for a Patriots game or a concert or show elsewhere, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find that lower price ticket, not on Game Time. Not to mention when you go to Game Time, they have all-in pricing. So when you're looking at these tickets, do I want to go? Do I want to not? You don't have to worry about the fees. They tell you right up front, this is how much it costs. They'll show you what the seat looks like if you want to go. And to me, that's what I want. And that's what you get with Game Time Picks. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals and great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching for this site and that site and comparing and all those notes. It's all there. It's the lowest price guarantee only at Game Time. So whether you're going to a Patriots game or you're not, download the Game Time app today, create an account, and here's the catch. Code CLNS gets you $20 off your first purchase. I just did this to get tickets for my wife and a couple of friends who are going to the Pats Jags game in London, which we're going to talk about. So do the same right now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. What would NFL film say? Ooh, boy. So for folks who are new, this is a segment where we like to pretend there's a documentary. I don't know why I always say it like that. Probably because it's late and I was, I was on a red eye play, a documentary. A documentary, it's NFL Films production. What would they say as they're recapping the season as we go game by game by game in real time? The last time we did the segment, I said they're not spending any time on this. It's a Patriots special. The Jets beat the crap out of them. No one producing this goes, yeah, let's spend a lot of time on that game. You know what they're saying about this one? The same thing, okay? 30-13, giving up bombs, giving up catches in triple coverage, throwing a pick six. Like the Fred Warner one is going to be early. I think we'll probably see the touchdown run at the end. Cue to Gerard Mayo. Disappointed at the press conference. Jacoby still our quarterback. Boom, we're off to the Miami game. That's it. Whatever happens against Miami, because it's a divisional opponent and it's at home. And who knows, maybe it leads to Drake May's next appearance, either an injury relief or a backup coming on or starting against Houston. I don't know. I certainly hope it's not injury relief. Jacoby Brissett is taking a pounding. That man is still somehow in one piece. But the point is, this crew, this documentary, is going to spend a lot more time on the next team than this one because it was bad for the Patriots and bad for Patriots and bad for business if you're making a documentary about them. So we have travel stories, and then we get to your mailbag and we'll get out of here. So this was a unique week. Doug and I travel, as you'd imagine, same time, same place when we're going on the road. He got tickets mid-Friday. So we actually missed press conference, locker room, wrote about it on the plane. We landed in SFO around 3:30 and took a red eye home, as I just told you, Sunday night. So you get 2 nights, right? One before the game, one after the game. We said, it'd just be easier if we get home, can work. I'm like, sure, this is perfect. I'll get home and do the pod. So we get in Friday, and SFO is like half hour south of the city. We're hitting some traffic. We get in, and there are a couple things that stand out right away. Number one is you get into the hills in the heart of San Francisco, where I've not been since college. So anyone on the West Coast, Carlos, who's going to get an answer to his mailbag question, lives in the Bay Area, fan of the show. Do not correct me. I understand where I'm coming from. But the first thought I had was number one, how did they drive here in the 30s? Because we're going up hills and you cannot see the top. You can't even see near the top. Okay. My second thought is going through some neighborhoods. Maybe the Fox News dads were right. And I don't know which comedian I'm ripping off when I say that, but like, whew, I'm glad it was the daytime and we were driving. It's just some rough stretches of town. But we were going to North Beach, which is the furthest point if you're coming from the south and you're still in the main part of the city. Fisherman's Wharf, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz, it's all right there. So we get in past some self-driving cars. First time I'd seen those ever. Small things spinning on the sides, the Waymos, one big on the top. You would think this was just like the Google Maps cars that are getting a layout of, wherever they're driving around to update on Google Maps, except for there are too many of them. And oh, by the way, Callahan, they're self-driving cars, not Google cars. So we get in. My back had killed me the entire flight over, which is not to say I'm any older than the 33 years old that I actually am, but broke a couple lumbar vertebrae when I was young. And so this happens from time to time. I say, Doug, I'm just going to chill here and catch up on some work expenses, whatever. So Friday night, get some food ordered. He goes to dinner with an old boss of his at Nesson. And the reason I bring that up is because as I'm doing expenses and eating takeout and watching Miami, Virginia Tech, I'm going, okay, so I'm going to do travel tales for my next podcast. I can't really lead off with I'm having a Chipotle bowl and I can bring up that I know the Virginia Tech head coach because he used to coach at Penn State, where I used to work, and I went to a clinic of his. Brent Price, good guy, because if they lose, which they did, that's not a great story. So Doug texts me and goes, hey, do you want to go to the Giants game tonight? And I already had tickets to go with Chris Mason and Mark Daniels, the Mass Live, the next day on Saturday. But I go, yes, the podcast cannot start like this. So thankfully, his old boss is a guy who loves to say, hey, I'll make a call. Well, he made a call. I took an Uber. We go there, middle of the game, seats for free. We're on the first baseline to watch like the last 5-6 innings of Cardinals Giants. Crowd's awesome, which is secondary to the park is awesome. I had never been, I'm going to still call it Pac Bell. It's my 22nd different ballpark. But it's not just the setting. It's not just the bay in the back. It's not just how everything looks and layout. It was, to use a word, the vibe of it. Like this was relaxed West Coast baseball, but in a way that you could feel that people cared. And oh, by the way, if you're looking out to center field, it's as if you took, I would say upgraded version of Camden Yards, which everyone loves, and just put it on the ocean. What is not to love about all of that? Nothing. The answer is nothing. So we go to the game. They lose to the Cardinals, despite one guy behind us shouting with all his might that Paul Goldschmidt sucked and was a bum. We go back, wake up the next morning, walk around Fisherman's Wharf, get a quick workout in, get some breakfast. And so at this point, we're trying to connect with Mark and Doug. And so I said, I'm going to go to the, or Mark and Chris. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go to the park. I'm going to get a beer and I'll meet you guys inside. And so I scooter over there, get to the bar, High Dive Bar, shout out them, right in the water. Because I'm basically going for, like, if it's a peninsula, I'm in North Beach, go all the way to the right and come down to South Beach, which is not, it's not South Beach of Miami, of course. But I'm just along the coast catching the sights. Again, not like the heart and the hills of San Francisco. This bar is a 12-minute walk up the shore from the ballpark. And so I get Drake's 1500 Pale Ale. Never had this before. Very crisp, very, very good. There's a dude in the corner wearing a Ted Williams jersey. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a shot. Like, it's some investment to get a Ted Williams jersey. It's very, very specific. I'm sure he's from Boston. Maybe he's going to the game. So I go up, hey, love the jersey. Where are you from? What's it to you? I go, okay, he's definitely from Boston. Oh, so you're from Boston? Never heard of it. Well, okay. I'll see you later. Just wanted nothing to do with me. Holding a beer, trying to have a conversation. That's cool. So down the beer, start to walk towards the park. It's 1:00 game, local time. And again, I'm like, okay, I got to update the stories, which to date, granted, have not been the most scintillating. Here is the most scintillating of the stories. As I'm entering into my phone, what do I want to say for travel tales? I look up and think, okay, who spiked that pale ale? Because what I'm seeing is obviously not real. There's a naked man on the bike going by me. There's a naked man behind him on a bike now going by me. There's a third and fourth and fifth. There is a parade of nude cyclists going by me in broad daylight in a major city. And you could be like some of the folks from I mentioned. Oh, it's California. Oh, it's San Francisco. I don't know, man. I didn't have a problem with it. Wasn't my favorite site, but like people can live their lives and that's cool. I'm just going to sit there and be like, what is going on? And that's exactly what happened. People are taking photos and videos. Not my thing. Anyway, you Google this. Apparently happens fairly often. And even when it's cold out, which it was not, but I'll leave that there. And anyway, that took a second to shake off. We go to the game. We sit in left field box, not box, left field upper deck, which I will say for the record, best upper deck outfield seats I have ever had any ballpark, maybe any sporting event. Again, looking out at the bay, looking down at the game, perfect weather, wind, setting, everything. Had a tumor, which is a not an actual tumor. This is the beer Pilsner. Apparently, Germany's most decorated, awarded Pilsner, which is on draft there. Excellent. But yeah, most awarded German style Pilsner beer. Um, we go to a place across the street, watch Alabama, Georgia. That gets out of hand. We go back close to the hotel. Doug picks us up. A place called Buena Vista, and this is where the night ends. First of all, not only do they claim to have invented Irish coffee, which was freaking delicious, and they put this kind of like heavy cream on top. I don't know what's in there, but you've got guys behind the bar who are like, I'd imagine these outfits are from the 20s. What do I know? I'm like living the 20s now, but I'm talking 100 years ago. They have a framed polo supposedly donated by Hunter S. Thompson, but also a TV only reserved for big games. So Georgia comes back from something like 33 to nothing. We're going, hey, do you mind if we flip this on? They go, no, this is only for big games, like the Super Bowl. I go, okay, well, like top 5 matchup, is there any way we can duel you? Like, here's 20 that we can make this happen. No, we can't do it. Well, we put the game naturally on one of our phones as we're playing guys naming dudes, name a college. Everyone gets 10 seconds. You got to name a player from this college or you're out, and go around and around and around. Small crowd watching the end of Bama, Georgia. Awesome around us. Bama wins. Crazy play. I have to go to bed at this point because it's 8:30. Wake up the next day. We drive an hour from Fisherman's Wharf in the city, go to the stadium. Not my favorite. Kind of basic. You can tell it's newer. Another brilliant day for just sports outside, but yeah, like we drove in through an office park to get there. And like Route One's no picnic, but I think you at least get the understanding when people are walking a mile to the game what you're getting into. This could have been for an interview where there's just a lot of bad traffic until you make that final right turn to go to the stadium and they're like, oh, there are people tailgating. So you saw the game. I saw it. That's what it was. Start working on film as a writing my column. We go back to SFO in the airport, do as much as you can, pass out. And here we are this morning. Those are travel tales. So the next time we do this, it will be after London for Pats Jags next month. We are possibly going to do a pod meetup there. So if you reach out, you can DM me, you can send me an email. Have any interest in there? I know we've got folks from Ireland and Denmark who listen to this podcast. And I want to say from England too. I will put out somehow where I will be that night, probably with Doug, Mark Daniels, Chris Mason, maybe Chad Graff, who was out with us at Buena Vista for those Irish coffees, maybe some Globe folks. I don't know who's making the trip, but we're down to hang. If you are, let us know if you're going to London. It should be a fun trip. Okay. Mailbag, and we're done because I need to go to bed. Chris is in a bad mood. Cool. Remember when Elliot Wolf said the Packer way was being nice and respectful and insinuated that Bill was a big meanie? When can we throw him off the lighthouse? Well, Chris, never is the answer to the second one. To the first question, I know you're being facetious here. Elliot's quote about we want a less hard ass type of vibe, I think was fine at the time. I think it's fine now. Just in the fact that you can have a little bit more joy when you're going to work and not always living in this kind of dread or fear in the name of victory. Because when that doesn't happen and you go 29 and 39, that's when you're asking, well, why do I really want to do this in the first place? So look, let's take a breather. Elliott should have done more to build up the offensive line. I've been on that for months, but we can take it easy. FF Strat. Do you believe Mayo and Wolf are actually on the same page like it's been sold to us? To me, it feels like Mayo has wanted to play May since week 1, and Wolf would prefer May sit for the entire season. The organization feels like it's on the brink of dysfunction. Woo! Man, someone's got a case of the Mondays. Look, the last episode I did, I talked about with Mike Jardy why I thought Gerard Mayo wants to start Drake May or might want to. Like the question itself is absolutely fair based on the comments he's made, the comments he has not made. He has been much firmer recently about backing Jacoby Brissett, which is a good idea considering he kind of left him out the draft for the Jets game. But to me, I do believe, and this is choosing to believe, this is not reporting, these are not facts. You make some calls, get some back, that Elliott is more inclined to take a longer term view. He came from a place where patience paid off all the time. Aaron Rodgers replacing Brett Favre. He wasn't there for the drafting of Jordan Love, but that same place drafted Jordan Love to replace Aaron Rodgers. We know how that's going. Draft and develop. Time is on your side. Do this, quote, the right way. And Gerard has been here. Gerard wants to get winning. He wants to engender some more culture and some more buy-in, which is taking a hit as you have a 3-game losing streak as they do now. And if he also believes, which this we know, that extending plays is the most important trait in his mind for a quarterback, not exactly Jacoby Brissett's strong suit. And it is for Drake May, as we know, being more mobile and having a stronger arm. Does that make him a better quarterback? No. But that's another reason why I think Mayo might want to start him. I think, though, they have these conversations. If you're asking me which one leans more towards Payson, I would bet Elliott and Mayo. But largely, look, if Drake May is not starting, I think they're on the same page enough where there's not really an issue. It's just Mayo has made this harder than it needs to be, which has been a habit of his when he talks to the media. Pat, how has the change of training / strength staff correlated with reduced injury? Seems like the injury bug is strong this year. Well, yes, we said off the top, though granted, Matt Judon's not gone because of injury, though maybe a bruised ego, that they're really getting hit in spots where they can't afford to get hit at or losing key players. I will say this. They were dead last year in adjusted games lost on defense. They were 30th on offense. So whether it's time or whatever, I would not forget so easily what last year looked like from an injury standpoint. Matt Judon and Christian Gonzalez were the headliners. You lost a lot of other guys underneath there. So I don't think the training and strength staff, which was here last year, by the way, like they're still working from mostly the same playbook, and it's Gerard's brother, Duran, who's now heading the strength staff, and they let go of Johan, who used to be their sports science guy. But it's not unlike Gerard and Marcus Covington working from Belichick's playbook, right? Like they'll put their own tweaks on it, their own twists, things that they believe, things that they couldn't do before. There's not a ton different from what I saw in camp, running a little bit more, taking time to warm up. But given the results of last year, again, dead last in adjusted games lost, the most injured defense in football, in the third most injured offense, change is not such a bad thing. I just say for right now, it's a small sample, and I don't see direct evidence that would say this is causation, right? From what they were doing in the spring, in the summer to where we are here in late September. This is why they're injured as opposed to it's just football and things like this happen. Corey, quote, how long can Mayo afford to stick with Brissett if he's getting worse by the week? At some point, he's going to lose the locker room if he doesn't start May, right? No, because here's the thing about Jacoby Brissett. He's engendering more buy-in and respect from his teammates, as bad as the play has been, because they see the same tape that I do, where he's getting the bleep knocked out of him. And he not only just keeps getting back up, but he has good body language. He has good messaging. He's in charge of himself in the offense and accountable. Unlike Mac Jones a year ago, who was flailing around and losing his mind and pointing fingers and all of the stuff that we watched and we're going, that's not great. Okay, Jacoby Brissett, yes, has statistically been getting worse each week. I would say weeks 1 and 2 are probably a wash, given the circumstances were worse against the Seahawks than they were against the Bengals. But the point stands that I don't think he's in danger of losing the locker room because Jacoby Brissett is not only getting respect now, he had it to start the year. This is a captain. Okay, this is not someone you're backing because his backup is Bailey Zappi, who can't beat him out in a single practice or 1 week of practice, which was what was going on last year. This is not a matter of buy-in. But if he does have more games like Sundays, to answer your question directly, I would say another 3-4 weeks, but it has to be that level of bombing where you go, you're costing us. You're directly linked to the losing, where I think Jacoby was really along for the ride in Seattle and had a good hand in it against the Jets, and now was a main character in a way that like there's no way around this. Not that we want to talk around it. It's just to say he's got a bigger piece of the blame pie this week, much bigger than he did the last 2 weeks. Grand Jordanian. This question has come up. I don't know how. Someone asked me this on the beat the other day. Not like a mailbag question. We were just talking. And I see this on Twitter. The question is, what do you think of the idea of getting Cole Strange ready to play center? Plenty of time in the classroom while he's injured to learn the checks, adjustments, etc. And his body type and athleticism would be an asset at center versus drawbacks at guard. First of all, I think that's a little overstated. Like David Andrews is 300 pounds, not particularly athletic. Guards are going to be around the same weight, similar height. But I mean, sure. Like I don't see a downside to it. You could have a succession plan in there. He's a smart guy. He does have trouble putting weight on, but anything to get him on the field, like at least see what it looks like. He's had a rough start to his career, performance-wise, than dealing with injury last year. I don't know if there's a starter in there at all, center or guard, But if you want to try him out at center, knock yourself out. Cy, quote, based on the first month, Jalen Polk needs to see full-time snaps going forward over KJ Osborne and Tyquan Thornton. Well, he hasn't lit the world on fire. He's been the only receiver outside of Pop who has shown the toughness and competitiveness that he belongs there. What do you think? Cy, I think that's well said. That's what I think. I wrote it today, actually, that I think I said it here. He was targeted deep. He was targeted intermediate. He was targeted short. That means he has Brissett's trust. That means he can win at those different levels. How consistently does he do that is the real question. He's a rookie, but he's winning at the catch point in a way. We saw on the back shoulder, 21 yards, and almost on the 30-yarder, or actually 41-yarder that was ruled incomplete on fourth down, that you don't see those guys win at the catch point. So, yeah, let him roll out there. Tyquan Thornton's doing nothing for you. Give Jalen Polk all Tyquan snaps and put Tyquan on the bench. Two more. Yap wants to know, if Brian Dable becomes available, do you make him one of the highest paid OCs and move on from AVP immediately? Woo. I'm going to answer this question as if it's the offseason and not tomorrow, because I don't think that would be I think it would be a disservice to what you've been trying to build through 4 weeks, and then just to pull the plug after playing the 49ers, Seahawks, Bengals, and Jets defenses with a terrible offensive line is not fair to those coaches or Drake May's development or whatever you're trying to do here. But if it's the offseason, yes, I'm taking Brian Dable over Alex Van Pelt. It's just business. Carlos, we put him last because he got a shout out at the start. I actually get to see him at the game. Good to see you, Carlos. Here's your question. Quote, hey, Andrew, would you blame some of the defensive struggles on the coaching / game planning? He gives an example of Marcus Jones being 5'8" and Juwan Jennings not being 5'8", but instead 6'4", or on the injuries they're dealing with, or both. I guess I didn't say this for last because I said this in the open. The injuries are factoring in, but the defensive coaching has not been good. Whether it's the insistence on prioritizing the run at the expense of these big, giant, explosive pass plays that cost you scores on 4 of your first 5 drives, or it's the Jets getting out to a 14-3 lead at halftime, the Niners doing that 20-3, the Seahawks knowing the blitz was coming, on a touchdown pass and then in overtime. It's not been good. Like, these are the growing pains we talk about with the rookies and second-year players. First-year coordinators, first-year head coaches are doing this right now. It's not great. It's tough. So it's absolutely a factor. It's always both, though. I mean, Juwan Bentley being in the middle of this defense would be much different, at least against the run, against the Jets, especially when Raekwon McMillan is missing 5 tackles. And you can't plug the middle against the Niners, who didn't really have any interest in going to the middle, but they didn't need to. Point being, injuries would change things. How much? I don't know. I just think the coaching, the deeper we reach into the depth chart, right, matters more. And you've heard me say that. So you've heard me basically say everything. This might be one of the longer solo episodes we've ever done. I need to go to bed. We will have another great guest for you later this week. If you want to hit me up, please do. Again, email or DM or whatever you want about either the London trip, which we'll try to find a pub for that Saturday. And before that, if you have any mailbag questions that I did not get to, please let me know. And if you do have a second, we will always take the ratings and the reviews. They're helpful. I've told you this. We can see when people are more engaged with the podcast, what works, what doesn't. If you have thoughts, share them with us. Again, email, DM, but please, 5-star rating. Leave us a review. We really appreciate it. I will see you later this week.